All right, so today we're diving into the world of Brando, Brandstater,
Yeah.
founder of the Brando Group.
Yeah.
I got to say, going through all this material you sent over, really fascinating guy, right?
Definitely.
This global background, working with just like an insane amount of brands.
It's quite a list.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking like Midea, Toshiba, even like Coca-Cola, Audi. Big names.
Yeah, he's been around.
But it's not even just the names. It's like every brand, there's this sense of a story there.
Oh, absolutely.
Not like your run-of-the-mill marketing campaign story,
Yeah.
something deeper.
You can tell there's a thought process behind it all.
Yeah, like a real understanding of how these brands connect with people.
It's like he gets what makes them tick.
So you've obviously had a chance to really dig into all of this.
Yeah, I've been going through it all.
What like initially jumped out at you about Brando and his approach?
I think what's really interesting is how his own journey kind of gets woven into his whole brand strategy thing.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
It's not just like a list of countries on a resume. It's like all these experiences actually inform his view.
Of how brands go global, basically.
Exactly. Like how they resonate on that scale.
Yeah, okay. No, that makes sense.
Like you're talking about a guy who started as a competitive swimmer in East Germany.
Right.
Then after the wall comes down, ends up in Berlin. And eventually he's building these marketing networks in Barcelona.
Wild, right.
Quite a trajectory.
Definitely.
But each of those like chapters, they've left a mark.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Like think about the discipline, the focus from his swimming days.
That makes sense.
Those are huge in brand strategy too.
Precision, consistency, that sort of thing.
Totally. You need that.
And then there's this whole global citizen thing.
He really owns that term, doesn't he?
Totally. And it's everywhere. His work with all these international brands, even his Instagram.
I saw those, like a visual travelogue or something.
Right. It's like he's constantly absorbing these little nuances of different cultures.
Yeah, like what makes people tick in Berlin versus Barcelona versus Beijing.
Which is invaluable if you're trying to build a brand that speaks to, like, everybody.
Absolutely crucial.
And it's not just about understanding the cultures. It's about bridging them, right?
For sure.
So he goes from that network building role in Barcelona back to Germany, leading these international projects for a brand consultancy.
All right, he traveled to something like 60 countries?
Crazy, right? It's like he's connecting the dots between all these different markets.
Finding those universal threads, yeah. The stuff that resonates everywhere.
Which is kind of the whole point, right?
And at the end of the day, yeah. Great brands, they're built on those shared human experiences.
The emotions that go beyond borders.
Exactly.
And then he makes this move to China, becomes the global head of brand management and communication for Midea Group.
Now that's a big stage.
Huge.
Right.
We're talking Fortune 500, a major player in the whole home appliance world. Seems like he really thrives in these environments.
Oh, absolutely. Applying that global perspective to real deal brand challenges.
Like his work at Midea, it's a testament to that, right?
Totally. He wasn't just managing brands, he was actively shaping them.
Okay, yeah.
Like he spearheaded the repositioning and global launch of the Midea brand itself, refreshed the acquired Toshiba brand, even created a completely new brand, Comfee, from scratch.
Wait, hold on. He created a brand from scratch.
From nothing. Yep. That's taking brand strategy to a whole other level.
Wow. Okay, so each of these brands, Midea, Toshiba, Comfee, they all occupy different spaces within the market, right?
Absolutely. Different appeals, different consumers.
It's like a reminder that, that whole one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work in a global market.
Not a chance. He even spearheaded Midea's global sponsorship strategy, which led to some pretty huge partnerships.
Oh, right, with some big names in sports.
Big names. Manchester City, New York City FC, even the AFF Suzuki Cup.
And of course, we can't forget the recent signing of Erling Haaland.
As Midea's global brand ambassador, that's a big get.
It's like he just has this knack, for finding those cultural touchstones.
The things that connect a brand with a global audience, yeah.
Like sports.
Transcends language, geography, everything.
Exactly. And someone like Erling Haaland, with his global appeal, it's like he becomes a symbol of that unifying force.
Precisely. And again, it's not just about slapping a logo on a jersey.
Right.
It's about finding those authentic connections that resonate on a deeper level. And that seems to be a recurring theme with Brando, that search for meaning and connection. beneath the surface.
Yeah, yeah. And you can see that reflected in the sheer variety of brands he's worked with. The list in Brands Plus Impact is insane.
I know, right? It's mind-blowing.
I mean, it's everything. Home appliances, electronics, food, beverages, cars, airlines. It goes on and on.
He's like deliberately sought out all these experiences, exposed himself to all these different industries, markets, ways of thinking.
Makes you wonder, is there a common thread through all of it? What is it about Brando's approach that lets him navigate all that?
One thing that jumps out is his expertise in brand positioning. He's deep into the psychology, the neuroscience of how people connect with brands.
Oh, yeah. It's like he cracked the code or something.
He's gone beyond the surface to understand how those mechanisms work, what triggers those emotional responses.
Right, right. And he has this framework, this BrandHouse thing he uses to explain how it all fits together, like a blueprint.
The BrandHouse is brilliant. It breaks down a brand into 4 key levels: foundation, target consumer, product or service, and brand elements.
So like the foundation, the walls, the roof. Makes sense.
Exactly. Each level needs to be clearly defined, interconnected. If one's weak, the whole structure's compromised.
It brings order to the chaos, gives you a structured approach to something that can feel so abstract.
Absolutely.
It's like he's saying, here's the framework, the building blocks. Now let's get creative within that.
Exactly. And he uses his work with Midea Group's home appliance brands to illustrate this perfectly.
Oh, yeah. He had to differentiate Midea, Toshiba, Comfee, all within the Midea Group, right?
Yep. Appealing to different consumers, but keeping them consistent with that overall brand identity.
That's a great example of applying that framework to a real challenge.
For sure.
And it shows his ability to balance the analytical side of brand strategy with the creative side.
You need both, right?
Absolutely. It's not just data and numbers. It's understanding how those insights actually translate into emotional connections.
He also emphasizes the brand anthem, which is like the visual and tonal representation of the brand house, the essence of the brand.
Makes it tangible.
Exactly.
I like how he uses those analogies. Makes it easier to grasp.
Yeah.
And speaking of analogies, he uses one to explain brand architecture. Compares Midea Group's portfolio to the Volkswagen Group.
Oh, right. Can you elaborate on that a bit? Sure, he uses the Volkswagen Group with all its different brands, Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche, Lamborghini, to show how different brands can appeal to different consumers, but still be part of a cohesive whole.
So Volkswagen has brands for the everyday driver, the luxury enthusiast, and Midea Group does the same for home appliances.
Exactly. Brando's role at Midea Group was to make sure each brand had its own space, its purpose, maximizing impact but staying true to the group's vision, a delicate balance.
And that brings us back to Midea Group itself. What kind of company are we talking about here?
Well, they're a global powerhouse, not just home appliances. They're a B2B high-tech company with 5 business pillars: building technologies, robotics and automation, smart home, electromechanical, and digital innovation. Their motto is humanizing technology.
So they're cutting edge, pushing the boundaries of innovation. And Brando was leading the charge for the smart home division.
A major part of their business, yes. And their global reach is impressive. 35 production centers, over 166,000 employees, revenue over $51 billion in 2023, ranked 278th on the Global Fortune 500 list.
So he wasn't just shaping brands, he was shaping them on a global scale.
Within a constantly evolving company, yeah.
That must have been dynamic.
Dynamic and challenging, which makes his international experience all the more relevant. He was managing brands in a global context, navigating cultures, market complexities, to achieve these ambitious goals.
It's clear his impact at Midea went way beyond like aesthetics or marketing campaigns. He was shaping the brand architecture, making sure each brand had its space, its purpose, while driving business growth.
And his work with the smart home architecture is a perfect example. He had to differentiate Midea, Toshiba, Comfee, not just for the sake of it, but to achieve specific goals.
Reminds you that brand strategy isn't some isolated thing. It's tied to business objectives.
Absolutely. His ability to connect those dots, to translate brand strategy into results, that's what sets him apart.
Okay, we've covered a lot, but there's this one story I keep thinking about. The Adidas Trabbi story from his early days.
Ah, yes. The Trabbi.
I have to hear this.
Okay, so picture this. He's 17 years old. His grandfather passes away, leaves him his Trabant. Now, the Trabant, it was an icon in East Germany, but not exactly known for style.
No, I imagine it was pretty functional, maybe a bit boxy.
Exactly. But Brando, being Brando, he had a vision. He was already a huge Adidas fan, Loved the three stripes, that sporty aesthetic.
So what did he do?
He turned that Trabant into an Adidas Trabbi.
Yeah.
Painted stripes, the logo, the whole 9 yards.
No way. That's amazing.
Oh, it was legendary. Became quite famous in his hometown. And it's more than just a funny story. It shows something about him.
Even back then, he understood brand identity.
Yeah, the power of visual symbols, how they can take something ordinary and make it unique, memorable.
It's like a little micro case study in brand building.
You could say that. You have the product, the Trabant, not inherently exciting, but he injects it with this personality. Associates it with a brand that represents something aspirational, cool, and the whole perception changes.
Exactly. And it shows that Brando's journey didn't start in some corporate boardroom. It started with a Trabant and some paint.
It speaks volumes about his passion, his understanding of the power of brands, that willingness to think outside the box.
Okay, I think we need to let that story sink in for a second. It's a good reminder that even the most successful brand strategists, they all start somewhere.
That spark of creativity, that willingness to experiment, it all starts there. That Adidas Trabbi story, it's a perfect intro to what makes Brando's approach so unique, right? It's this perfect blend of analytical thinking and creative flair.
Not just the numbers guy.
No, he's crafting these narratives, tapping into those emotional things that draw people in.
A brand whisperer, almost.
Yeah, he has that intuition, to find those unexpected connections that make a brand click. It's not just features and stuff. It's deeper.
You said it. He sees brands as more than just, commercial things.
Oh, yeah. They're like cultural artifacts, expressing human values, hopes, all that.
And his global perspective, that plays a huge role.
It's huge, yeah. He's seen how brands can go beyond borders, connect with people from all over, tapping into those universal desires, the things we all feel. Like
with Midea, right.
Yeah.
He had to make those three brands distinct. Midea, Toshiba, Comfee. Yeah. Each one appealing to a different group, but still fitting into that overall brand identity.
It's like conducting an orchestra, Each instrument has its part, but they all contribute to the whole symphony.
Perfect analogy.
And it shows how he can adapt his approach. Depending on the brand, the audience, it's not one size fits all.
No, definitely not.
It's about the nuances of the market, the culture, finding those unique connection points.
And it's not just about adapting to existing cultures. It's about seeing what's coming next.
Oh, yeah.
How things like globalization, technology are changing the whole game. His work on Midea's sponsorship strategy.
Right.
Sports. He saw that as a way to bring people together globally through shared passion. Figures like Haaland.
He's not afraid to experiment, push boundaries, challenge how things are usually done.
Always looking for those fresh takes to give a brand that edge.
It's that same energy from the Adidas Trabbi.
Right.
Only now it's global scale.
And it's not just being creative, it's being strategic too.
Of course.
A brand, it's more than marketing. It's what drives business growth. His work at MideaGroup, it proves that.
Yeah.
He wasn't just making pretty campaigns. He was helping them position themselves globally.
Right. Differentiating the brands, driving sales.
He's like a builder,
Yeah.
Creating brands, but also brand-led businesses.
Because a strong brand, that's a huge advantage in today's market.
It's super competitive out there. And I'm also struck by how he emphasizes both the art and science of branding.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
He dives into the psychology, neuroscience, all that. But he also gets the importance of data for those strategic decisions.
He's found that sweet spot,
Yeah.
Intuition, analysis, he blends them perfectly.
And that's a key takeaway, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. You can't just be one or the other. You need both. The creative vision, the data, analyze the numbers, but then tell a story that moves people.
Head and heart.
It's all connected.
Now, leadership, right? He's managed teams across different countries, cultures. He's a trusted advisor to these huge brands. What can we learn from that style of his?
Well, it seems to be about collaboration, empowerment. He doesn't micromanage.
Lets people on their work.
Exactly. He creates an environment where everyone feels valued, they can contribute their best.
And it's not just managing, it's inspiring.
Right.
Yeah. He loves sharing what he knows, mentoring, speaking at conferences, even his own podcast.
Wait, he has a podcast?
He does. It's called B+ Podcasts. Covers all sorts of branding and marketing stuff.
Really?
Brand positioning, campaigns, global sponsoring, crisis PR, all of it.
That's impressive.
He's built this platform to share his views with everyone.
Helping others navigate this world of branding.
He never stops learning, always looking for new experiences. Fluent in multiple languages, traveled everywhere.
Yeah, I get that.
It's that curiosity that keeps him going.
He sees the world as like this giant brand experiment. Always watching, learning from what works and what doesn't.
Okay, we've talked a lot about him, his approach, his wins. But let's bring it back to our listeners. What can they take away from all this?
Good question. I think, first of all, Brando's story shows how important that global perspective is. The world's so interconnected now.
Right.
The brands that succeed, they connect with people across cultures.
So be curious about the world. Learn about different cultures. Get out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. And when you're building a brand, think beyond borders. Don't just translate your message. Understand the cultural values, the nuances. That's how people connect with brands.
And that balance we talked about, analytical and creative. You need both. Data is important, but you got to turn those insights into stories that resonate.
Yeah, don't be afraid to challenge how things are done. Look for those unexpected connections, the new approaches. Remember the adidas Trabbi, right? Sometimes the best ideas come from, like, the most random places.
Totally. And lastly, Brando's story, it really emphasizes personal branding. It's not enough to just be good at what you do.
You got to articulate your value, build relationships, be a thought leader.
And Brando, he's done a great job with that. It's opened doors for him. He's connected with people, shared his knowledge, built a reputation.
It's not about self-promotion. It's about authenticity, sharing your passion, helping others succeed, building a community around shared values.
A shared purpose. Brando's journey, it's proof that this works. He's built networks, brands, and now a whole community of people who get it, who share his vision.
For a world where brands have more meaning.
This has been, wow, a really insightful look into Brando's world. I feel like we've just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
But we've learned a lot about how he thinks, his philosophy, his impact.
It's been a pleasure unpacking all of this with you. He's a real inspiration.
Definitely. He shows us that brands, when they're done right, they can connect us, inspire us, change things for the better.
It's about more than just selling a product. It's about making a difference.
As we're wrapping up here thinking about Brando, that adidas Trabbi story just keeps coming back to me.
It is pretty catchy.
It's not just catchy. It's like it shows you what drives him, this belief in what brands can do, like how powerful they can be.
He's not about the surface stuff. It's not just looks or slogans for him.
Right.
Brands, they're how we connect, tell stories, express those things we all kind of share, hopes, dreams, all that.
And his own global journey, all those different places, experiences, it all fed into that, didn't it?
Absolutely. From East Germany to building these global brands, he's seen it. How brands go beyond borders, cultures.
Yeah.
They speak to something universal. Think about the brands that really stuck with you.
Ooh, good point.
They're probably more than just products, right?
They represent something, something that fits with my values maybe, or what I believe in.
They tell a story, evoke a feeling, become part of your own story.
That's what Brando gets, that deeper connection.
And it's not just about connecting with customers. It's about building brands that, make things better.
Oh, yeah, that make a difference.
Standing for something good, inspiring people.
Using that power for positive change.
Building understanding, making the world a little bit,
brighter.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something we can all do, whether we're building brands or leading a team or just living our lives, creating something with meaning.
Leaving a mark. And Brando, his whole journey proves it's possible. He's not just building brands. He's building connections, bringing people together.
Inspiring them.
Well, this has been an amazing deep dive. I feel like we've only just begun to explore Brando's world.
There's so much there, yeah. But we've gotten a glimpse of how he thinks, what he's all about, his impact.
He's a real visionary when it comes to brands. And to all our listeners out there, I highly recommend checking out more about Brando and the Brando Group. Links are in the show notes. And as you go about your day, think about this. What brands have really made a difference in your life? And how can you, in whatever you do, create those meaningful connections, inspire positive change? Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.